Great fight, first of all, David. I mean, we're boxing fans first and foremost, and it's just a wonderful clash of styles, isn't it?
It is. It's a fight where many are giving Derek Chisora very little chance of victory. They look at his past career and they're going back 10 years, 15 years. And that's not the Derek Chisora that you'll see on Halloween on the 31st of October. The man you're going to see stepping through the ropes is someone very different than we've ever seen before. We've seen flashes of that man in the Carlos Takam fight, a fight where he was under immense abuse, taking shots. Many referees would have stopped that fight, but his sheer determination, his heart allowed him to come through and land a knockout punch and get that victory. Artur Spilka, another guy who went 9 rounds with Deontay Wilder. Derek Chisora went out there and just blitzed him. In those short spurts, he's shown elements of world-class heavyweight pedigree. But then he's gone to sleep. He's had fights, against Say Nagashi, where he went through the motions, boring 10-rounder, where he wasn't pushing the pace, a bit underwhelmed. But we need to find a way to bring out 12 rounds of intense action from the very first bell, because anything other than that, if there's a 30-second gap where he lets Usyk get off with his slick punches, could be the difference between winning and losing this fight. Derek's mentally prepared to go through absolute hell to get the victory, because he's going to need to. It's not going to be an easy fight for Derek. This is going to be blood, guts, and he knows he needs to be in better shape than he's ever been in any fight before. This is the real deal. He's fighting a guy who's arguably one of the best cruiserweights in history. A guy who's won every single belt, Olympic champion, world champion, pound for pound, top 5 in everyone's book, against Derek Chisora, who got knocked out against Dillian Whyte, a couple of years ago. It's a tough ask. It's a massive, massive hurdle for him to overcome. But Derek's doing stuff I've never seen him do before. I'm not going to give away the game plan, but he's going to put something on Usyk's lap that he hasn't seen before. And people are going to say, what possibly could he bring? You'll see on the 31st, he's going to bring an intensity that no one's seen before, that Usyk has definitely not seen before. He's had one fight in 2 years at heavyweight. One fight in 2 years, period. I don't think he looked that great in that fight. Chad Witherspoon, coming in with less than a week's notice, he wasn't able to put him out, wasn't able to knock him out. He didn't look that great. He won the fight convincingly, but that was against a big man. We've only ever seen him once against a big man in the professional ring, and I wasn't that impressed. And I think Derek Chisora has got the perfect style, he's got the mindset, he's got the technical ability now to really close that gap, get him up against the ropes and really let fly some leather.
Does victory over Usyk propel Chisora into world title contention?
100%. At the moment, Oleksandr Usyk is the WBO mandatory. He's number 1 in the WBO rankings. If Derek Chisora is to somehow beat, the man in the WBO rankings at number 1, he's then in that position. He's then knocking on the door for world title fights. He's in an amazing position, and there's no pressure on Derek. Very few people are expecting him to win. All he needs to go out there and just give it everything he's got. And we've seen what he does. Look at the 2 fights with Dillian Whyte. He pushed it. He did so well. The first fight, I thought he won it. The second fight, he was winning until that big left hook landed. This time, he knows for 12 rounds, he has to be switched on every second. Be working on concentration, working on holding his game plan together when he's tired, when he's frustrated. We've got tricky sparring partners. And we've also brought in Gashi, a guy who he couldn't get to grips of in 10 rounds in a few fights back. He's now closing the gap, getting there closer, landing quality shots. And he's doing stuff he couldn't do 6 months ago. I'm so glad that this postponement has happened, because it really increases his chances of victory.
If Derek can knock out Usyk, what kind of reaction do you think that would get from AJ, from Fury, from the boxing world?
Nobody is expecting Derek Chisora to somehow pull off a victory. They think maybe he'll ask some questions of Usyk, or we're going to see what Usyk can do in heavyweight. It's all about how Usyk beats Derek. This is what I'm talking to these experts, talking to these analysis guys who talking about his pedigree and his levels. I get that. But occasionally someone does a miscalculation. Sometimes people don't realise the heavyweight division is very different to the cruiserweight division. When Usyk was fighting these amazing, champions from all over the world, these Cubans, Americans, Russians, Ukrainians, when he's fighting these tough guys, that's at 90 kilograms. These guys are not that big, but fighting someone who's 117, 118 kilograms, and is naturally at that weight. It probably comes down from 125 kilos to get that. He's a rock solid heavyweight and a guy who's used to the heavyweight blows. Usyk isn't used to that. And if it gets down to who wants it more, if it gets down to who's comfortable in the uncomfort zone, Derek's been very uncomfortable most of his life in the ring, taken a hell of a beating on a lot of occasions. Usyk hasn't. He's so clean, he's fresh. In his mind, he's not expecting to be drowned here. Who can drown the longest? I can guarantee you Derek can, because he's drowned a lot of his career.
And you know about the move up from cruiserweight to heavyweight, of course.
I do. I know the move up to heavyweight is so important to have that knockout power. Without the knockout power, it doesn't work. Look what happened when Evander Holyfield went up to heavyweight to fight Buster Douglas, challenged after Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson. It was the power, it was the single punch power that Holyfield brought that was the equaliser. He was quick enough to get there and punched hard enough to take his man out. Same thing with me. When I went up to heavyweight, I was fighting the biggest ever heavyweight champion in history, Nikolai Valiev. I had to hit him so hard to get his respect, to keep him away from me. Because if I didn't have that power, he would have mowed me down and squashed me. This is the difference. Does Usyk have the power to stun and hurt Derek, to stop Derek's onslaught? I don't think he does. I think Derek's technical ability coming forward, closing the gap, moving his head, constantly fidgeting, putting the heat on Usyk, pinning him against the ropes and making it count is going to be the difference between winning and losing. And Derek's doing it so much better over the last 5-6 weeks now than he was 5-6 months ago.
So you're saying that Usyk's got to prove power moving up to heavyweight, not
Without
just for Derek, but for anything.
It's not just going to be about pity-patty punches here. Derek's going to make it very, very physical indeed. I've seen that. The White Rhino's been over there in Kiev assisting Usyk. And I think that's a good sparring partner. You know, I think it's a good idea for them to get someone rough and tough and who comes forward. But you know what Derek can do and what Alan can do are very different. But I understand why they brought him. And I think it's a good idea for them to bring him over. But you know what Derek's going to do, what Derek's bringing to the table is something very. He hasn't shown this yet. So whatever research Team Usyk do on Derek, they can't figure. Not going to know what he's going to bring.
We've already had one upset very recently with Alexander Povetkin, of course, knocking out Dillian White. Dillian was on the verge of a WBC shot. Oleksandr Usyk's on the verge of a WBO shot, and as you've said, has only had one fight at heavyweight. Could he be looking past Derek? He seems a professional in every way. Or is this just a case of timing, that maybe it's too soon for him?
I think Usyk is probably one of the most professional big men out there. Him and probably Anthony Joshua, in terms of looking after himself, eating right, training hard, you know, making sure they're physically in great condition. He's one of the best out there. And it's a unfortunate situation for Usyk that he's going to have to show it, you know, show his power. The pressure's on him to look good. The pressure's on Usyk to go out there and knock Derek out. And that puts him in a situation which he's not usually in. Usually he lets his boxing do the talking, but he's going to want to go out there. He wasn't happy with the fight against Chad Witherspoon. It didn't set the world alight. It didn't really get people talking, because in the heavyweight division you need to be exciting. You need to go out there and put on a show-reel knockout to get the big fights, to demand the big pay-per-view money. And Usyk is going to need to bring something significant to Derek. And if he does do that, it's going to clash and it's going to be an absolute barnstormer. So I know Usyk believes he's significantly better than Derek. Look at his prior record. And he's going to be confident to go out there and want to make a statement. That works for us 100%, because Derek is not looking at taking a backward step. If Usyk wants to show what he can do and let his hands go in the pocket, he's going to come unstuck real quick.
Tyson Fury said that Anthony Joshua should forget fighting Usyk and obviously fight him. Is that an indication of the Ukrainian's danger, that he's sort of in the who needs him club for the
He is. Usyk is definitely one of the guys you wouldn't want to fight as a heavyweight. If you're a heavyweight champion, you've got a guy who's a cruiserweight champion, but he's so tricky, he's so awkward, and it's hard to land a clean glove on him. It's very tough to, there's never been a blueprint of how to beat this guy, because he's never lost. You know, you've got to go back a long way. He's won world champions, European champions. He did everything as an amateur. He did the WSP things where he mixed in with the semi-professional, and now he's gone to professional and he's just wiped the floor with everybody. And he's not going to expect to have any issues with Derek. But that's what I think our strength is. The fact that Derek knows this is it for him. Whereas Usyk, I guarantee he will train in a different manner if he was fighting Anthony Joshua than as he's fighting Derek. I think he'll train a lot harder for Anthony Joshua because he knows he's going to have to fight a bigger man, a stronger man, longer arms, quick feet. He's going to have to really step it up. Now he's thinking, this guy's lost 9 fights. If he's lost to 9 people, I can definitely beat him. And that's where the psychological game comes into play. He's going to, unfortunately, I think, not realise this is going to be his hardest fight he's ever had, amateur or professional. That's where I think Derek is going to come to the forefront because Derek knows this is it for him and he's training like he's never trained before.